Nicole Watterson is one of the main characters in the amazing world of Gumball, known for being the mother of Gumball, Darwin, and Anais Watterson. Nicole is the head of the family, as Richard simply doesn't have the maturity to deal with all the responsibilities that come with being a competent parent, leading Nicole to take the reins most of the time. But Nicole is not just a struggling supermom head of the household. Throughout the series, it's somewhat usual to see her demonstrate spectacular amounts of power, being able to transform herself and demonstrating agility, strength, and fighting skills absurd for the mother of a suburban family. Say, she has reached power levels of mass destruction and has even displayed dark powers that lead her to transform into a full-blown soul-devouring demon. And although many say it's just a joke, it strangely has an explanation in the story within the show. So in this video we're going to analyze her character, how strong she is and why she's so strong. The best way to approach this subject is to investigate Nicole's past in depth. We know that she comes from a family of cats, where her parents Daniel and Mary Senecourt were exaggeratedly strict with her. This is because for them, before love, it was important to teach her to always be above others, through success. With the best grades, or the first places in competitions, because second place is relegated to the losers and the mediocre. At some point in her childhood, Nicole met Yuki Yoshida, a kind of humanoid-shaped cloud with whom she trained martial arts. In the episode The Rage, we are shown that Yuki was the daughter of the sensei who taught them both all the techniques, being both outstanding students. But Nicole, having such demanding parents and being used to perfection, managed to excel more. And that became clear when in a competition both reached the final, with Nicole defeating Yuki thanks to her fury. Yuki's defeat caused problems in her family and led her to go into exile, seeking to train until the day came when she could return and challenge Nicole in combat to regain her honor. Losing one of her closest friends in this tournament led Nicole to abandon this aspect of her life. Because of these kinds of experiences, caused by the high demands of her parents, Nicole led a very stressful life, and this in turn caused many of her traumas, insecurities, and anger issues. Thus, we can understand that since she was a child, Nicole was exceptional, not only in her academic performance but also in her physical aptitudes, which added to the brute force product of her repressed anger, have led her to develop several of the techniques we see in the series. Which brings us to our next point, Nicole Watterson's incredible abilities. Let's start with some of her more basic demonstrations. In some episodes, Nicole is seen far surpassing the strength and agility of the rest of her family. For example, in the remote, she is seen fighting Richard, Gumball, and Darwin. And even with the three of them together, they couldn't beat her, as her martial arts skills and speed allowed her to win the fight, with Gumball saying that his mom is like some kind of ninja, and that being her family, she didn't want to hurt them. What's more, in episode 2 alone, there is a moment where Nicole is able to subdue a wild dog and use it as a tool to chase her children, destroying several of the nearby residences. And if taming a wild dog sounds impressive to you, the power scale goes to hell once she goes up against Tina's father, the Tyrannosaurus. In the episode The Fight, Nicole goes to a dumpster to talk to Mr. Rex after Tina beat up Gumball, but things go wrong and Nicole ends up in a showdown against Mr. Rex, where she wins without a scratch. And in case it wasn't obvious, the Rex Tyrannosaurs were extremely strong, with a bite capacity of over 3,500 pounds of force, and it was worth cheese to Nicole. There are other examples of her devastating super strength, such as Nicole's ability to crush cars with her legs, create shockwaves with the snap of her fingers, or transform into a kind of Hulk. But there are undoubtedly 3 episodes in the series where we see the true potential of this character. One of them is the episode The Castle, where when Nicole leaves, the Watterson household turns into Project X. So after her arrival, she gets everyone out of her home, but not before ordering them to leave it better than they found it, and never to return. One of those present acts Brave, asking her why would they do that, so Nicole plunges him into some sort of hallucination, causing him to see the evil deep in her eyes, something that traumatizes him, and he proceeds to clean up before leaving shattered, meaning that Nicole either has powers of mental manipulation or her eyes reveal the true power found within her. Another such episode is The Limit, where after several incidents and a lot of pressure from the Watterson, Nicole's patience runs out, pushing her beyond her limits. She transforms into a wildcat, breaking her physical limits, anger takes over, and she even brings out a strange power when one of the employees tries to stop this ultra-destructive mode, which leads her to be immune not only to electric shocks from a taser, but with just a look she manages to make the employee age about 20 years in a moment. So with 2 different examples, we can assume that her eyes are a large part of the source of her power. but undoubtedly the most striking chapter is the Fury. Not even a minute goes by and Nicole starts to display her mad skills, starting with speed. As in the middle of a traffic jam, she loads up her 3 children and starts running towards the school to get them to school on time, breaking the speed of sound. Later on is when Yuki appears in her life and we are given a legendary anime-like battle, with Nicole being able to punch through the gym floor, resist the impact of something like Kamehameha, as well as launch energy bombs from her hands, which brings us back to her past with Yuki Yoshida. As we could appreciate, Nicole had quite a difficult life, and her physical strength is only a consequence of the limits to which her family took her. Her beginnings in martial arts began under the tutelage of the Yoshida family, whom she left shortly after. But that does not mean that she did not continue training on her own or looking for other alternatives to help her deal with her frustrations. It is just in the Fury that we are given an interesting clue as to the type of school or place Nicole may have traveled to for training. When Nicole withstands Yuki's first energy bomb, the Cloud, surprised, questions her as to how she could possibly survive something like that, and Nicole claims that she has had the most vicious training on the planet, to which Yuki asks her if she went to Hokuto, Konoha, or with Master Miyagi. And while Nicole replies that no, she fights like that because she's had to raise a husband and 3 children, I think it's important to review that comment from Yuki further. Hokuto could refer to several things. It's a city in Japan, and it could also be a reference to a Japanese play called Hokuto no Ken, which according to Wikipedia is a post-apocalyptic martial arts story. This story takes place on a planet that has gone through different changes on the surface after a Third World War, something that could explain why there are humanoid animals like the ones we see in Elmore, but it could still be just a reference. Interestingly, it is also the name of a girl in Naruto, which also links to Konoha. Konoha is the name of the leaf village where Naruto lives, which could suggest that Naruto exists in the Gumball universe, or at least there is a variant of the village in this universe. The Hidden Leaf Village is a place where ordinary people live, but various ninja clans also inhabit, and not only basic martial arts are taught, but depending on your genetics, your skills, and the senseis who train you, you can develop all sorts of abilities involving illusions, destructive techniques derived from the 4 elements, the use of natural energy to power your body through senjutsu, and obviously lots of super sharp weaponry derived from medieval eras of Japan. This would explain a lot about the abilities Nicole demonstrates in the series, and explains the whole thing with her eyes. These are very similar abilities to those that can be used by users of the Uchiha clan, especially those with an attribute in their eyes called Mangekyu Sharingan, like Itachi Uchiha, who is able to create black flames through his eyes and, above all, has mastered his Genjutsu technique. Genjutsu is one of the branches that allow ninjas to create illusions in their opponents, and there is no physical damage. They simply use their chakra to influence the enemy's senses, manipulating their perception to make them see fictitious scenarios. It's something that can cause severe damage to the minds of those affected, and it's something that sounds very familiar. In the castle chapter, Nicole uses a technique very similar to Itachi's when she confronts one of the people who wanted to stay in her house. Making use of her gaze, everything seems to indicate that she put the poor devil in a kind of illusion so powerful that the subject began to do what was asked of him while crying, giving him mental and psychological damage for free. And on more than one occasion, Nicole can summon flames through her eyes, which aren't black since she doesn't possess the Sharingan, but it makes sense that she learned part of her abilities by watching the Uchiha clan's prowess, which sounds pretty crazy, but hey, the evidence is in the series itself. Besides Genjutsu, there are 2 other branches which are Taijutsu and Ninjutsu. The first one is in charge of polishing melee attacks, being more of a martial art that can be taken to other limits, demonstrated by characters like Rock Lee or Gai Sensei, who was declared as the strongest man by the main villain of the series. So it is understandable that it was Taijutsu techniques that led Nicole to be able to face a Tyrannosaurus and come out intact. But she still holds one more secret, and it comes from another series that I'm sure you didn't even expect. This series is called Villainous, and here we meet a guy named Black Hat, who is the main villain of all the Cartoon Network series. If you thought Vilgax was already too nerfed with the series that came out after the original, you better not watch this series because Vilgax is reduced to this. Black Hat founded his own organization under the same name, and although we won't dig into his history for now, we can say that he's pretty broken being the villain because he can change his body shape to anything, he can change his size, he has laser vision, he can create portals that take him to other worlds, and most of all, he has dark magic. This is important because in the series there is a photograph where several of the former members of the organization are seen, where it is confirmed that Nicole was part of Black Hat. This explains many things, such as several of her remaining abilities, like the time she took years of vitality from a Walmart employee, or for example, why when she gets angry she can make a deep voice, as if she were possessed by a demon. And it's not just that she is possessed, but that she is the demon, as we see in the chapter The Egg, where it can be observed that Nicole has the ability to turn into a demon. After being humiliated by Parham, Nicole asks him if he wants to know who she really is and proceeds to transform into a red, muscular, horned demon, then shoves the orange woman into his mouth. Nicole then tells Gumball why he's so surprised if this isn't the first time he's seen her eat someone, meaning this has happened before, and it may be part of, I don't know, some sort of ritual or mechanism by which she keeps herself so strong and vital, literally making sacrifices in exchange for maintaining the power Black Hat and his organization conferred on her years ago. Disturbing, yes, but more than disturbing, it makes much sense. So, it seems that after having abandoned martial arts with the Yoshido family, Nicole entered her rebellious stage as a teenager, briefly joining Black Hat, where she learned to use the powers of dark magic. In this way she obtained a demonic transformation, but after abandoning it, she tried to make amends by traveling to other villages to learn to control her anger through the teachings imparted in Konoha, or by Mr. Miyagi himself. Or at least that's what I think. So, I hope you liked this video. Strangely enough, all this evidence opens up some very strange possibilities for the Gumball universe, but we'll talk about that another time, because we're out of time. Like the video if you liked it, comment on other mysterious mysteries you'd like to see solved, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.